Hi folks, welcome to your MWIS Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. It's a chilly North Atlantic pattern that is in charge across the British Isles this weekend. We've got some further heavy showers with some hail and some snow on the mountains at times. The outlook into next week is looking a bit quieter as high pressure begins to build and temperatures will lift, so drier, settled conditions likely in the outlook. I'll begin with a freezing level chart, and this taking onwards from first thing Saturday, the date and time at the bottom of this chart, and we start pretty much sub-zero from low levels upwards in many places, touch of frost in some of the glens of the Highlands, your freezing level at around 600 metres elsewhere, and will lift a little bit through the daytime, so you're up to around 800 metres or just above in places through late Saturday afternoon. It'll drop a little bit again overnight into Sunday, anywhere sheltered from the wind may just see a touch of frost. Sunday daytime, similar sorts of values. You're looking at a freezing level at around 800 metres or perhaps above in some places, a bit lower towards the far north of the Highlands. Lifting a bit across England and Wales, we're getting the first taste of some milder air starting to push in here, but I suspect it's still a cold start to Monday across much of Scotland and northern England. All the while, we're looking at the risk of some icy conditions then on those higher slopes, and there will have been some snowfall accumulations across the mountains from recent days too. Next week then, things are gradually changing. Monday, a bit of a transition day really, where it's still cold, I suspect, across more eastern mountains, milder air encroaching in from the west, and really by Tuesday it's likely that temperatures will then be lifting above freezing to many higher mountains, and that'll be the way of things, I think, into the middle of the week, where temperatures are generally a good few degrees above zero, maybe some inversion conditions with a touch of frost overnight into the glens. Now, later in the week, I think on balance, most mountains will be above freezing, with that diurnal variation perhaps in places, with some frost pockets even locally on higher slopes. Otherwise, again, some inversion conditions may well exist. Just watching for some chillier air, though, coming back across England and Wales if we do see an easterly flow just come around the southern flank of the high. We'll show you those synoptic charts then just to see where things go. Saturday, a bit of a complicated weather day, lots going on. We've got one area of low pressure skipping away eastwards quickly in the morning, some frequent areas of showers, some hail, some snow across the hills, even to low levels in places for a time. Then it's a more general showery air mass coming in off the North Atlantic again, as it has done in recent days. Some heavy bursts, some hail, some snow at times, and the risk of a rumble of thunder. Those tracking increasingly eastwards through the afternoon, so many places at risk of a downpour through the day. Strongest of the winds focused across England and Wales, but squally and often towards gale force across many of the higher mountains. Stays windy into Sunday, west by northwesterlies in charge. Still the idea of some showers in the forecast. They tending to maybe just lose their intensity a little bit compared to previous days as temperatures just begin to lift a little bit through the various levels of the atmosphere. But the idea of a little frontal system coming in from the Atlantic may just bring something a bit more of organised rain, preceded by some hill snow as that runs in to western Scotland. The timing of that is open to a bit of question in just how much that gets in and how soon a deterioration does arrive. Otherwise, ahead of that, showers just becoming a bit more scattered and a windy day, still a cold feeling day across the mountains, it must be said. Looks less windy by Monday, but still watch for the strength of a cold northwesterly, particularly across more eastern mountains in Scotland, perhaps down the Pennines as well. Looks on balance a quieter weather day. There's one or two bits of detail that may just come out of this one yet. A few areas of showers may just remain in some places, but with the air coming down from the north, there'll be some clarity to the air, some sunshine around, and cloud breaks towards many higher slopes. One or two spots, though, could just be a bit more prone to cloud banks. The northern Cairngorms, even the mountains of Snowdonia, could just hang on to some of those banks of cloud. Next warm front that is just skirting in from the Atlantic may, later in the day, start to introduce more cloud and a few spits and spots to western Scotland. Now that warm front just topples eastwards as we go into Tuesday, high pressure building all the while to the west and the northwest. It's an awkward one just to what extent there's a residual dampness left on this front. It could just leave a zone of drizzle, patchy rain and low cloud draping itself in across many of the hills, maybe some breaks just emerging across western Scotland, but with that just relatively damp atmosphere and temperatures beginning to lift, it could just end up being a rather murky day, even if there isn't that much rainfall around. Wind speed's fairly light, but just watch the strength of a westerly across the northern part of Scotland in particular. Now, what's left of all those fronts look as though they topple away into Europe by the middle of the week. We have high pressure then stationed to the northwest of us. The airflow coming around as a northeasterly, which may be just starting to introduce some chillier air later in the week, particularly across England and Wales. But at this point, we're under a fairly mild air mass, especially across Scotland, which has come around off the mid-Atlantic, so it's likely to be a milder story. Scope for some inversion conditions being set up as that high begins to build in across the Highlands. Light winds for many across Scotland, but just that northeasterly drift could still be rather strong and chilly across easternmost hills in Scotland and across northern England as well. Now, there is a bit of uncertainty just how things pan out later in the week, so I'm not going to try and get too clever apart from just to show this chart at this stage, which is the general pressure anomaly from one of the forecast models, which takes us through the full 7-day period up until the 25th of March. And it backs up that story that we're developing towards the middle of the upcoming week, which is high pressure starting to station itself just north or west of the British Isles. And the idea of being a quieter spell of weather, again, some inversion conditions may well be in existence. The driest settled conditions focused across northern Britain. We're watching just for maybe a cool east or northeasterly wind across more southern regions of Britain. All in all, looks a fairly dry story. Just in terms of cloud amounts may just vary from day to day and just where the air is circulating around the high. Eastern hills perhaps a bit more prone to any low cloud banks and 1 or 2 drizzly showers coming in from the North Sea if that easterly wind does just pick up at any point. But overall, it does look as though as we go towards next weekend and maybe beyond, high pressure will be a story in the weather. So the recent unsettled spell is going away again and things are looking that bit quieter. It might just be at some point through the later stages of March, the high topples a bit further south again, and we do just introduce more of a westerly flow back into northern Scotland. All that transition is a little bit uncertain, but the outlook basically is that high pressure looks nearby for a spell. Don't forget you can find all the info for your local area for the next 3 days on the MWIS website. That's been your Friday Planner in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.